Well, hello everybody. It is I, Annette, your favorite little witchy cook. We are going to make some homemade sourdough bread with my starter, Beetlejuice. This has been feeding overnight. You can see it's very bubbly, it's very active. It started here, but it did rise all the way up to here overnight. It's active and it is ready to go. So this is going to be a very easy sourdough bread recipe that you don't need a scale, you don't need any fancy equipment, just a few ingredients. And yeah, I'm going to show you step by step using American measurements. So many sourdough recipes that are out here. Everything is in metric, and unfortunately here in the United States, we're stubborn, we're still using the imperial system. So I hope you find this informative and helpful, but let's get started. So we're going to need about a half a cup of very bubbly, active sourdough starter, and about 1.5 cups of warm water. Plus, you could add maybe 2 tablespoons of extra warm water. This will be a more hydrated loaf. So let's get that started. We're going to whisk together our starter and our water in a bowl, and please ignore the background noise. It's a Friday morning here. I do have to work today, this afternoon. I literally just rolled out of bed. And I have my robot vacuum going, so that's the noise you hear in the background. But we have to multitask here. I work really goofy hours, and so this bread is going to take a total of about 2 days from start to finish. Okay, I just want you to see how active and bubbly my starter is. And it smells very yeasty. And you should be able to see bubbles throughout your starter, okay? I do have another video on the channel of when I was feeding Beetlejuice. You have to name your starter, by the way. So it's not hard to do your own sourdough starter. It's just you have to have a lot of patience. So this is what your starter should look like before you are ready to use it. So I've whisked together with a fork about 1.5 cups of warm water, not hot, and half a cup of bubbly active sourdough starter. And this is what it'll look like. Now we're going to add about 4 cups of organic bread flour. You can use all-purpose flour as well. I'm going to use about a cup of organic rye flour. I like to use King Arthur. They're not paying me to say that. And I also use King Arthur organic unbleached all-purpose flour. If you have bread flour, that works too. Bread flour has a little bit more gluten in it. So we're going to add that, and then we're going to whisk it. We're going to put it on the stand mixer and use a dough hook and mix it together into a ragged, rough-looking lump of dough. Okay, so this is 4 cups of flour in with our starter and our water, and it's 4 cups plus 2 tablespoons of bread flour, and then you're going to add between 1 to 2.5 teaspoons of sea salt. I like to do a little saltier, so I'm going to go to the 2.5 teaspoons of sea salt. This is going to give you that nice crust and a little bit of more flavor to your bread. Okay, there's no sugar or oil in sourdough bread. So it's all natural, very simple. Okay, so we're going to pop this on our stand mixer. See if I can do this one-handed here. I don't feel like bringing in my whole camera tripod in from the other room. And we're gonna fit our mixer with a dough hook. You could do this by hand too if you want to work out. You know, maybe you haven't been to the gym in a while, but I like to keep things simple and using my lovely KitchenAid stand mixer with a dough hook. Okay, I just want to show you something here. If your dough still seems really, really soft and sticky, it's okay to add about a tablespoon of flour at a time until it starts to come together in a ragged looking ball. So I've actually had to add a few tablespoons of flour because my kitchen is just a little, it's warm, it's summertime. So just keep an eye on it and use your discretion. Okay, so your dough will start to come up your dough hook, and the sides of the bowl are pretty clean. So this dough is ready. So I'm going to transfer this into another bowl because I'm going to be using that bowl basically for all of my proofing, my, you know, whatever I need to do with the dough. Okay, just want to show you, your dough will feel sticky, but it is holding together in a ball. It'll feel, you know, damp and sticky. It's, you know, it'll stick to your fingers a little bit, but it's still holding its shape. That's what your dough should look like. Okay, so I've transferred my dough into another large bowl, and I'm going to just cover this with a damp paper towel and let this rest for about 30 minutes. Okay, later on I'm going to use the flour sack towel to cover this, but for now we just need to leave it rest for about a half hour, and then we're going to do a series of stretch and folds before we, you know, let it rest and rise. Okay, so this dough has been resting for 30 minutes. I'm going to take the damp towel off, and what we're going to do is you're going to take and pull up a corner and pull it to the middle and stretch it. As you do that, you're going to do this 4 times and then let it rest 30 minutes. Do it again. You're going to do this at least 4 to 6 times over the next couple of hours. What this will do, it's going to help give you that nice, airy, open crumb that you see with traditional sourdough bread. So let me try to do this with one hand here. So I'm just going to pick up a corner here. It is going to be very sticky. It's hard to do this with, but you're just going to pick that up and bring it to the middle and then turn, and you're going to do the same thing again, and you're just going to keep turning the bowl. But I do have to put the camera down so I can hold on to the bowl because this dough is really sticky. Okay, so I've done 4 pulls and turns. You can see I brought it to the middle. It's going to look ragged, and I'm going to cover this again with my damp cloth, let it rest another 30 minutes, and come back and do this again. Okay, so I've given my dough its final, you know, pull and turn in the bowl. It is ready now to be covered up. I'm going to use a flour sack towel, and I'm going to cover this up. I've turned the light on in my oven. As you can see, I had to refeed my starter, which is coming along nicely. After it's you know, doubled or tripled in volume, I'm going to pop it back into the refrigerator to keep until I'm ready to bake with it again. But let's get our dough bowl covered up with our flour sack towel, and we're going to pop this in the oven, and this is going to sit and rise. This is going to be your first bulk fermentation, and it's going to just be in a warm area, no more than, I would say, I mean, it needs to be at least 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So by turning just the light on in my oven, it'll be the perfect environment for this dough to rise. And you're going to leave this sit for about 8 to 10 hours until it's almost doubled in size. And when you take it out, it's going to be jiggly with a few bubbles on the top when you move the bowl side to side. That way you'll know it's completely risen. So we're going to go ahead and do that. See you in about 8 to 10 hours. Okay, so my dough has pretty much doubled in size, and it's jiggly. Look at that. Look how beautiful. It's a little jiggly when you move it side to side, see? And there's a few bubbles. See the bubbles? So then we're going to go ahead and gently turn this out onto a lightly floured surface. We're going to shape this into a ball. I actually could probably get 2 loaves out of this, so I might actually do that, is cut this in half with a bench scraper and form it into 2 loaves, and then it's going to go in the refrigerator overnight for its second proofing. Okay, so I poured the dough out. I just basically flipped my bowl upside down. You can see all the little holes of the bubbles, the air bubbles that were in here as it rose. And I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna form it into a ball. I'm gonna use my bench scraper here, and we're just going to, you know, fold this and turn the dough like this to make a ball. And again, I'm using a very lightly surfaced area here to get this dough to go into a ball. Just kind of bringing the sides up into the middle. Okay, so I'm going to keep working that, and I'm going to cut this in half. I'm going to make 2 loaves with this because, yeah, I mean, I don't think 1 loaf is gonna fit in my Dutch oven. So yeah, so let me finish getting this shaped the way I want it, and we'll go from there. Okay, I decided just to keep it as 1 big loaf, but I put it in a slightly narrower bowl. I did sprinkle a little bit of flour around the sides and the bottom of this bowl. And we're going to leave this dough sit for about 30 minutes. I am going to cover this back up, and I'll give you the next steps after that. Okay, so I just took my dough out of the refrigerator. It's been proofing or sitting in there for the last 24 hours. I have preheated my oven to 550 degrees and set my Dutch oven in there to preheat. Let me show you this. Okay, so my oven is preheating to 550 degrees, and my Dutch oven is in here ready to go. We're going to invert the dough out onto the parchment paper that I've cut to fit my pot. And then we're going to score our dough and put the dough in the hot Dutch oven and drop the temperature back to 450 degrees. I'm not going to take the dough out of my bowl and score it until right before I put it in the oven. Okay, so my oven was preheated at 550 degrees with the cast iron Dutch oven preheating, so it's nice and hot. So now I've dropped my temperature back to 450 degrees. I've prepared my parchment with a little bit of cornmeal, and I'm going to dump my dough out on top of this. And we're going to score the dough, and we're going to carefully put this in the cast iron pot. Okay, so I've dumped my dough out on top of the cornmeal. Look at this, and we're just going to score it. Now, if you're artistic and fancy, you can like maybe draw like a wheat sheath in here. I'm just going to make a simple X. I'm using a very sharp knife. And you don't want to go more than 1/8 of an inch in here, but we're just going to make an X in the middle. Just put it in like that, and this will help give it a little bit more of a rise to it. Okay, and I'm just going to come back this way with it too. And just kind of go in the middle. Okay. All right, so this is ready to go in our oven. You need to be very, very careful that that cast iron pot is extremely hot. And for size, this is a 4.5 quart Le Creuset cast iron Dutch oven. So put oven mitts on, guys. Okay, I've got it in there, and we're going to bake this. We're going to put the lid on it. We're going to cover it with a lid, and it's going to bake at 450 degrees for 30 minutes. And of course, one of the cats always has to be here to supervise. This is Rhiannon. You guys haven't seen Rhiannon in a long time, but here she is. She's making sure I'm doing everything the right way. And here's Nikita taking a little siesta here, mid-afternoon. Can you say hello, Nikita? She doesn't want to be bothered. Okay, so it's been 30 minutes at 450 degrees. We're now going to drop our temperature down to 400 degrees. And we're going to take the lid off. And I wish we had smell-o-vision, you guys, because my house smells amazing right now. Oh, you can tell it's hot. The camera's steaming up. So I'm just going to carefully take the lid off. And we're going to let this bake a little bit here. I'm going to grab a pair of tongs and just pull back the parchment a little bit because we want this to get nice and golden brown on top. So I'm just going to grab some of these just to expose the bread. And if you need to take it out and put it directly on the rack to finish baking, you can do that. But this is going to go for maybe another 15-20 minutes or so, maybe another 30. I'll check back with you here to clarify, but this needs to get brown, but it's risen quite a bit. This is going to be delicious. I'm so excited, you guys. Okay, as soon as my timer hits 10 minutes, I'm going to actually lift my bread out of the pot and bake it directly on my rack in my oven. Again, at 450 degrees for the last 10 minutes of baking. And this way, it'll be a nice golden brown and crispy crust all the way around. I'm going to be using my barbecue gloves because they've got 5 fingers in them and they're easier just to handle things like this rather than using big old oven mitts. Okay, so I put my loaf directly on the rack to finish baking. Just keep your eye on it. It should be a nice medium to dark golden brown all the way around. Look how beautiful it looks so far though. I mean, it rose beautifully. It smells delicious. It smells like, you know, your traditional San Francisco, you know, style sourdough. This again was proofed twice. It was proofed at room temperature for about 6 hours. And then it went into the refrigerator for another 24-hour cold proof, which helps, you know, give you a nice open, tender crumb, and it helps build the strength of the dough. And it also helps build flavor. So you're going to get a very complex, chewy on the inside, crispy crust on the outside. And my starter is about, I want to say it's not quite a year old. So This is an amazing thing. Sourdough bread is so good for you. It's low on the glycemic index, so it's good for people with sugar sensitivities or gluten sensitivities, because there's no added sugar. A lot of the gluten is fermented out in the starter and during the proofing process, and it's very simple, just 3 ingredients: flour, water, and a little bit of salt when you actually go to bake the loaf. But we're going to leave this sit till it gets nice and golden brown and nice and crispy. The loaf should sound hollow if you tap on it, and then you'll know it's ready. When it comes out of the oven, put it on a cooling rack and leave it sit for at least 2 hours before you slice into it. You can also freeze this. It freezes very nicely. I would wrap it in some wax paper or aluminum foil once it's completely cooled, and then put all of that in a airtight freezer bag. And you can freeze this up to 3 months. But we'll come on back when it's out of the oven so you guys can see what it looks like when it's completely done. Look at this gorgeousness that we are beholding here, you guys. This is a perfect, beautiful loaf of homemade, from scratch, including the starter, sourdough bread. Look how beautiful that rose. And look at the crispy, blistered crust. Oh my goodness. And look at the nice big bubbles. That's just a hint of what's inside when we cut this later. It sounds hollow when we tap on it. This is a very big loaf. I just can't believe it. It was half a cup of starter and maybe 4.5 cups of flour made this humongous loaf. I probably could have, cut the dough in half and made 2 small loaves with it. But I think I'm going to share this with my kids. This looks amazing. So we're going to leave this cool for a couple of hours before we slice into it. In the meantime, I'm going to take a stick of some quality European salted butter out of the fridge, and I'm going to reload my Mexican Talavera butter dish and get that ready, because I'm going to tear this loaf up, y'all. Oh my goodness. I'm actually kind of proud of myself. I think this is one of the best loaves I've made so far, other than my baguettes. But yeah, check it out. Try doing sourdough. Let me know what you think. Comment down below, and thanks for watching.